Good morning, and welcome to Life Fellowship this morning. It's good to see each one of you here. So, this is our first Sunday of the month, so our format's a little different. We have a half-hour teaching time, and then we'll dismiss into Sunday school classes and have some time of discussion. So this morning we're looking at two different passages in the Bible, but we're talking about genuine love in the brotherhood. And so as we look through this, it may seem just a little bit one-sided because we're talking about love in the brotherhood. If you noticed, the month of August, we're talking about relationships within the church, and then in September, we're going to be talking relationships outside the church some more. So it may seem a little one-sided. It is, because that's what our focus is on for this morning. So I want to start out with reading Romans chapter 12, verse 9 through 13. You can follow along. Romans chapter 12, we're going to start in verse 9 and read through verse 13. These are the marks of a true Christian. Let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit, serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer, contribute to the needs of the saints, and seek to show hospitality. So when I was reading through that, I got stuck on, and plus the title is Genuine Love in the Brotherhood, but I got stuck on that first part where it's talking about love and how we love one another with brotherly affection. So in that chapter, can I do any of those things if I don't have love? Can I do any of those things when I have hate in my heart towards somebody else? So the question I want to start out with is, what is love? Because that's a word we throw around, we use often to describe a lot of different things. I love a good steak. I love a fast car. I love my wife. I love my family. I love a good sunset. So there's a lot of things that I love, and they all have different levels. So what is genuine love? When we're talking about genuine love in the brotherhood. So we throw that word around, the word love. So in Genesis, when God was creating the earth, he said, like after each day, he said he would speak into being, or like as he was creating, he said, at the end of the day, he said, and that is good. What he was saying was he loved what he created. So what we love, we approve of, and we assent to. That's what we love. And in Genesis, God was doing that with his creation. And when he created us, he said, that is good. And he loved us. And he approved of who we are, and he assented to us. He said, I'm glad that this exists. I'm glad that you exist. So it depends on how we say it and how emotionally connected we are, whether it's a steak dinner or a mountain view or somebody that we really love closely. So that's a short little blurb on love. So we're talking about genuine love in the brotherhood. What are we talking about when we say brotherhood? What's the brotherhood? I ride motorcycle, and there's a little bit of a brotherhood there, even though we don't really know, even though as we're going down the road, we don't know anybody who we're riding with. But if you ride a Harley, there's a brotherhood, because as you're riding, and you're going past somebody, you flash a little sign to them. You only do that to those who are in the brotherhood. If it's a crotch rocket or a little scooter, you might just nod or wave, but you don't get the sign of the brotherhood. That's just a simple little illustration. Brotherhood in here is a lot deeper than that. A better illustration for brotherhood here in the church is I experienced brotherhood in the past 3 years. When I've been on the leadership team for 3 years now, and I experienced brotherhood different than I have in a while. So this is how I describe brotherhood. So there's 7 of us on the team, including myself. Everybody on the leadership team is older than me, except for Irvin. We're the same age. But everybody else is older than me. And we think differently. We have different gifts. At times we would disagree on how to address a situation or how to do something. We had different opinions, different personalities. We were different ages, different backgrounds. So we thought about things differently, and certain stuff triggered us, some of us more than others because of our backgrounds. But we were a brotherhood. So in that, we were able to work together. The past 3 years, I learned what it's like to work together in a brotherhood. I feel like we worked together extremely well. We didn't always agree, but we always ended up at the same place. And we had a common goal. That's brotherhood. That's deeper than when you're riding a motorcycle and you're just flashing a little wave to the guy going by you. So that's brotherhood. So this morning I want to look at genuine love in the brotherhood. So we're actually going to look at 1 Corinthians some. And so I want this to be, this morning I'm not looking for these papers are in the back. I don't know if you grabbed them when you came in. You can take some notes. I have 7 points on there, and then there's the questions at the end that we're going to talk about when we dismiss for Sunday school. So when I was studying this and looking through, this is almost like a performance review, except I'm going to take that back. I don't like when we're talking about Christianity and our relationship with Jesus, I do not like the word performance. So I'm going to take that back. It is a review. It is not a performance review. It's just a review on how I am doing in loving the brotherhood. This is the brotherhood right here. These are the people that we do a lot of our life with when it comes to building each other up and learning Christian values. This is who we go to church with. This is the brotherhood right here. So as we go through this, this is not something that we're going to be like, well, I pass, as far as love is patient, that, I can check that off and I passed that, or the generosity part, I failed. But this is just say, hey, these are some areas that I can grow in. These are some areas that I can improve. So I want to read 1 Corinthians 13. Because that's where most of this is going to be coming from this morning. Verse 1 of 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all that I have, and I deliver up my body to be burned, but I don't have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, and I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. Now I'm a man. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now, faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. So we're going to look at these. I have 7 points here that we want to look at briefly, what love is. And when we're thinking about this, we're thinking about love here in the church, love for each other in the brotherhood. Love is patient. So God's word has a wonderful way of bringing us down to earth. So you could ask me, Mark, do you love your family? Do you love your boys? Absolutely, I love each one of my boys. And the first one, I'm going to be honest with you, when I was giving myself a review, I struggled with because I love my boys. But you could ask, Mark, are you patient with your boys? I'm not. Not this past week. Wasn't very patient. I definitely need to improve in this area of love with my boys, with you guys in the church. Patience. Love is patient. Do you want people to feel your love? Be patient with them. Grow in patience, and you will deepen your love for the people in this church, for your brotherhood. Another way to translate what Paul is saying here is that love suffers long. Love expands your capacity to put up with difficult people or to put up with difficult situations. And that's a wonderful thing, because if you live in this world or you're part of this church, you will come across difficult people and you will come across desperate situations. Love is patient. Number 2, love is generosity. So again, you could ask me, say, do you love, or I'm going to ask you, do you love your best friend? You love your best friend? You can raise your hand. We'll have a little bit of interaction here. You love your best friend? Yes. It's awesome. Are you generous with your best friend? Maybe, yeah. It's a little different response. I love all of my friends, and I love my best friend. But there again, generosity is another way of showing my love. Love is kind. Love is generous. And the degree to which you are growing in kindness is the degree to which you are growing in love. So it's been said that the greatest thing a man can do for his heavenly Father is just to be generous to some of his other children. So when you look around here at your brotherhood and you think about love, it's generosity. How can you be generous to those here in this room this morning? You can be generous with your resources, because they're a gift. You can be generous with your time, your resources, your gifts. You can be generous with sharing the new birth that Jesus has given you. That's generosity. Number 3, love is humility. Love does not boast. It's not proud. And the word proud here in 1 Corinthians literally means a windbag. Love is not self-seeking. So that means that whenever that I'm growing in love, I don't always have to have my own way. So if you talk to anybody who has gone through major suffering or sudden death or tragedy, you'll probably find somebody who visited them and talked about their own indigestion or their own ailment. And they remember that, because that is not humility. That was somebody who came in a time of need and only talked about themselves. Do you want to grow in love? Stop being obsessed with yourself and start taking a genuine interest in the needs and the pain of others. Love is forgetting self, and forgetting self is health. So we often talk about humility and pride. And humility it's very simple. It's not looking down on yourself, but instead it's forgetting yourself and being willing to care for other people. Number 4, love is courtesy. Love is not rude. And if you're in a place where you feel like your love is burning low, then this is probably the simplest place to begin. Just practice some courtesy. You can practice it in the ways you speak. You can say, please, thank you, I'm sorry. You can tell somebody, well done. Courtesy is the oil in the machine of human relationships. Let me give you an illustration, and I'm going to just... 2016 was one of our election years, and Trump and Hillary Clinton were running against each other that year. And back then, social media was mainly Facebook. That was probably kind of before Instagram. So I was on Facebook. And I don't know if you remember that time. I do, because it affected me really negatively. So there was a lot of fear and lies, a lot of lies spread around what was going to happen. You know, if somebody was elected or somebody wasn't elected, you know what that's like. We were in that time. And especially on social media, it just runs rampant. And I was probably following the wrong people. So anyway, it actually really bothered me. It got me depressed. So it got to the point where it was hard to really have like a good outlook on life. So I did 2 things. I deleted Facebook. That's probably the best. And I started practicing courtesy. I don't know where I came across the idea to try this, but I did. For a couple weeks, I remember this was in the spring, and I run a sprayer, so it's large. It takes up all of the lane plus the next half, and I'm on the road a lot. And I just decided I'm going to practice courtesy, and I pulled over more than I normally did. I let people by. I waved. I looked like somebody from the South, not from the East Coast. I waved to everybody. Like if I pulled over, or if a car pulled over so that I could go by, I would wave and mouth the words "thank you." I practiced courtesy. It made a difference. Within a couple weeks, I felt like there was a lot of good people around me, and we weren't all just hating each other. And it was my own self that was changing. Nobody else had really changed, but my outlook had changed. So I'm just giving you that illustration. If you're struggling with love, practice courtesy. You can practice some of these things, and you'll build it. You can practice courtesy in the ways you listen. You can practice courtesy in the words you withhold, in the words you don't say. Don't bring out the worst in the person you love. So it's easy to slip into the habit of highlighting faults and weaknesses when you're talking about somebody. And here again, we're talking about the brotherhood. So when you're talking about somebody and you're like, oh yeah, that person, yeah, they always do that. So that's highlighting somebody's faults, somebody's weaknesses. That's not practicing courtesy. Or you can say, oh yeah, she's always like that. That's what I expected. That's not practicing courtesy. Again, you're highlighting their faults or their weaknesses. Courtesy says, I will listen. I am interested in what the person is saying, and I value what they think. Another illustration on that. So after my mother passed away, the following year, Abby was on her cancer journey, and people will, stop and ask you how you're doing, and our normal response is, doing pretty good, or I'm doing well. So I remember very clearly, somebody stopped me and asked me how I was doing, and so this time, instead of saying that I was doing good, I started to tell them how I was really doing. I remember talking for a couple minutes and starting to open up, get a little emotional like I am now, and I looked at them in the eye, and they were like this, looking right past, and it's like, oh my word, this person doesn't even care. When they asked me how I was doing, they expected to say, I'm fine, and we were just going to move on. Practice courtesy. Listening means a lot to your brotherhood. You really don't know when somebody is going through something really deep. So when you ask them how you're doing, be ready to listen, and listen well. Number 5, love is restraint. Love is not easily angered, and it keeps no records of wrongs. And what does that mean? It means that love is not easily provoked. It's not irritable. It's not touchy. It's not easily upset or offended. And again, like this is a hard one for me because I am easily angered. That's something that I've learned working with some of my boys, is ways to restrain myself and to give myself a little bit of time so I'm not just easily angered and just lashing out. Do people feel like they have to handle you with kid gloves? Do they feel like they have to be cautious to speak freely in front of you because it will upset you, or they're worried about how you may react? Can I handle the honesty? Can I handle honesty from people when they approach me and say, Mark, I see this in your life, and I think maybe you should change? Am I easily offended? Jesus had a story of the prodigal son, and we know that story well because we think about the prodigal son. In that story was the older brother, and the older brother was hardworking and loyal. Model son. Lancaster County ethics is what he had. Until his younger brother came home, and they threw a party for him and celebrated, and he was easily angered. It really made him mad. He didn't come into the party, he didn't celebrate, and he went out and sulked. He missed the joy in the moment because he kept a record of the wrongs. For a long time, he kept a record. Number 6, love is joy. Love finds no pleasure in other people's failures. Redpath says this: when a man has fallen, love will think about the battle he must have fought and the struggle he must have had before he went down. I'm going to read that again in case you want to write it down. When a man has fallen, love will think about the battle he must have fought and the struggle he must have had before he went down. Love always thinks of the best. It never presumes the worst. So with love, you don't jump to conclusions. There's a couple illustrations in the Bible. Elijah was one of them. Elijah presumed the worst about the erosion of faith in Israel. And he was convinced that he was the only true worshiper and the only faithful person. But when God told him the truth, it turns out there were 7,000 who had not bowed the knee to Baal. Eli was another one. he came into the house of the Lord, and he saw a woman called Hannah. And she was praying in her heart so that her lips were moving, but there was no sound. And Eli presumed the worst. And he was positive that she was drunk. So he confronts her and says, "How long will you keep getting drunk? Get rid of your wine." And then he finds out that he has completely misjudged the situation and that this was actually a godly woman who was pouring out her soul to God in prayer. And God was listening. So if my instinctive reaction is suspicion, then I have a habit of presuming the worst rather than thinking of the best. And I need to be renewed in love. Number 7, love is consistency. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. And God is calling us to live like this. Not just Sunday morning, not special days or the holidays, but He's asking us to do this every day. Love is not an occasional gesture, but it's an obvious aspect of our character. It's who you are in the morning when you wake up. It's who you are in the evening when you go to bed, when you lay down. It's who you are when you're winning the lottery, and it's who you'll be when you're losing everything. Another word for consistency could be dependable. I know in my journey with porn, I have a group of men that I can call on whenever I'm struggling. And I always think of the word consistency because I know who they are, and I know that they'll be there for me. That is love with consistency. So I want to read 1 Corinthians 13 again before we dismiss. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels but have not love, and I forgot I brought my own gong. So I'm going to read this in my own words a little bit this morning. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels but I have not love, this is what I sound like. Just if I did that for 5 minutes, I would be annoyed at myself and you would be even more annoyed. That's what a gong is. But that's what you are if you don't have love. If I have a prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so that I can move mountains, but I don't have love, pointless. If I give away all that I have, everything, and I'm willing to even sacrifice my body to be a martyr, but I don't have love, it's pointless. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So when we're thinking about genuine love in the brotherhood, our verse in Romans 12. Verse 9. I'm going to read those again as well. Let love be genuine. Abhor that which is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love each of your brothers. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Don't be lazy in your zeal, but be fervent in your spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. And when I read down through that, the only way I can do that is when I have genuine love for you, and I can feel your genuine love for myself. Love is patient. Love is generosity. Love is humility, courtesy, restraint. Love is joy. And love is consistency. So there's questions down there at the bottom. And I didn't get into them because the next half hour, 45 minutes, you're going to have time to talk about it and apply it. But I would love the last two, share with the group the effect of genuine love on your life and share the ways you personally have shown genuine love to others. So it's really easy. The first three questions can be kind of easy because it's more out there. But don't miss the last two questions where you're actually talking about what you've experienced, and be okay with sharing that. I know we talked about love is humility, and you're forgetting yourself, but you don't need to fake it. It's really good to hear other people's stories, how they showed love and how they received love, because it gives us real life examples on how to do that for each of us. Arlen.